Welcome everyone to Global Purpose Speaks. I'm your host, DJ Taz Rashid, and I'm a musician who travels to mindful festivals and events all over the world. And one of my passions is to have conversations with transformational leaders while I travel, learn about their unique missions and how they're changing the world. And this talk series is created in partnership with Global Purpose Movement, which is a collection of change makers convening and co-creating in our Earth's current shift towards a world that's working for everyone. Today we're chatting with Valerie Beltran, who's COO of Consciousness Hacking here in San Francisco. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about Consciousness Hacking and what you guys are doing. I understand you're almost at 3 years as an organization.
Yeah, so Consciousness Hacking was started by Mikey Siegel. He started it about 3 years ago. I came on board about a year ago, so I'm still kind of new to the vision.
Okay.
But it was something that as soon as I came across it, I knew immediately that I wanted to get involved. It was something that felt so aligned with everything that is important to me and my values. And just the idea of taking technology and using something that has so much forward momentum in our society right now and will always, and using it for the betterment of humanity, for really helping humanity shift the consciousness and evolve.
That's amazing. So how, just to hear a little bit about you, and your background, how did you get involved with consciousness hacking, and just like what is your personal path that led you to something like this? There's so much stuff going on in San Francisco.
Of course.
It's the hotbed, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and so it goes. My path, like anyone else's, is it's very circuitous and all over the place. But I started in New Mexico. That's where I grew up.
Okay.
And I come from an area that's not so much on the consciousness spectrum. It's very religious and a little bit more conservative. So not like the hotbed of consciousness in San Francisco. So I always had an interest in all things spirituality, and so I always sought out things like this, but didn't really know how to make it into a career, or of course like how to make money with it. So eventually I found a program that was called Philosophy, Cosmology, and Consciousness, and then also one that was called Consciousness and Transformative Studies. So I moved out here for those programs, or grad programs. And while I was in the Consciousness and Transformative Studies, I ended up feeling more resonance with wanting to make a change in the world on an individual level. So connecting with people through mental health and more of a one-on-one relationship. So I switched my program to a marriage and family therapy program, but that also had a lot of that consciousness foundation. So I wanted to really combine the consciousness and technology with all of these, native and indigenous wisdoms and traditions and Eastern traditions along with Western technologies and traditions. Just something to combine, synthesize all of those things. Because I think all of those things have a place.
Yeah.
And
they're all connected.
Exactly, they're all connected. Yeah, so I wanted to find a career that could bridge all of these things.
Okay.
And then one night, just, of course, very serendipitously, I had my plans fall through, and a friend texted and said, hey, do you want to go to this event? I didn't even look it up. I didn't know anything about it. Ended up at Consciousness Hacking. I walk into the building, and before it even started, before Mikey even got up and talked, I just had this feeling of, this is my next big thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to be involved
knew.
in this. I just knew. Yeah, it was that kind of intuitive pull.
Now, you're speaking of technology, and I've spoken with Mikey, and you guys are doing amazing things. But I want to hear, is there any particular technology that you are using, or you found that has really shifted the way you look at the way, you have awareness on yourself, or the way you look at life? Is there anything that you are using currently, or maybe something you used before? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so since I come from more of the mental health background, of course, that's where I'm interested in most of these technologies having an application. So my biggest thing about which I'm most excited is virtual reality. I see these things that are coming out where you literally put on someone else's perspective.
Yeah.
For me, there's nothing that has more transformative potential than literally putting on someone else's perspective. I mean, they have programs coming out that you can put on this world where you walk around and you actually feel what it's like to have paranoid schizophrenia, have voices all the time.
Oh my gosh.
Or you look down at your hands and you have black skin and you feel what it's like to walk around as a person of color. in the world and to see how people react and respond.
You've done this, like you've experienced
I've
it?
experienced, one that I experienced was called Clouds Over Sidra. And this was a day in the life of a Syrian refugee.
Oh my gosh.
And I did it for maybe 5 minutes, and I had this fully immersive experience of being like, they had this moment where they dropped food down in bags of rice, and everybody was running to grab a bag of rice, and you're looking around and you see people just running by you, and you feel like there are people running by you. And it was just this rush of anxiety and adrenaline, and I had this feeling of, oh my God, this is what it's like. You know, more than I could ever experience from someone telling me, or even watching a movie.
Yeah.
It's a fully immersive experience. I'm really getting to see what this life is like.
So virtual reality that's the hot thing now, and that's going to be the big thing in the next few years, it sounds like.
Yeah,
right?
It's something that's really popular, and there's so many applications for
You can use
it.
your phone with it, right? Like
Augmented reality
Yeah.
is so easy to just do on anything.
Okay.
So I'm really pushing for mental health applications,
Yeah.
or just any kind of social change applications where we're using this in a very conscious way that's helping humanity evolve.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do something like this, where you're putting on someone else's perspective, you don't even need to tell somebody how they should respond, because you naturally go towards feeling more empathy for that person.
Mm-hmm.
So they're calling virtual reality and augmented reality engines for empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one of the best applications, because you're putting on someone else's perspective, you just naturally start to feel more connected to that person.
They should have this for relationships, for sure.
Right?
I want to put on the virtual reality for my
I
wife
need to
and
see
be
what
like,
my partner
what is
is
she
talking about. I need to understand.
I'm like, oh, okay, I see
Now I
it.
get it.
I get it. Just give me the goggles. Oh, okay, I
Right?
see it. That would be great. And I love that. And I actually have not heard about that before,
Mm-hmm.
about the looking at the different perspective. Wow, that's a game changer.
Yeah,
right
yeah,
there.
it's not completely well known, because a lot
Yeah.
of VR and AR right now is used for entertainment, and they
Sure.
have a lot of meditation apps, which I think have a lot of validity as
Yeah.
well. But for me, what's really going to help push humanity, more than anything else I foresee, is this ability to put on someone else's perspective.
Very cool. Okay, so what about consciousness hacking? Like, what are a few things that's really hot with your organization right now? What are you guys putting out there in the world? And I guess, yeah, tell us about that, and I'll ask another one.
Yeah, what I see consciousness hacking really doing is creating a community where all of the makers, the people who are creating all of this technology, all the people who are wanting to fund it, all of the people who are just interested in it, who have ideas, where everybody can come together and collaborate on ideas, on technologies, on products. And so we are having events where we're bringing people together, and we have a couple different styles and types of events.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our speaker events, and these are always the first Wednesday of every month. And so we kind of kick off the month by having, this real heady, theory, let's get these ideas out there,
Yeah.
mind-blowing, amazing conversations.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And then after we have our first person present, then we break up into breakout discussion groups. And this is where anybody from the audience can lead a breakout discussion group on the topic of their choice. So they're facilitating a discussion on whatever topic they choose. And our attendees can decide any kind of discussion they want, and they can go amongst the groups as they choose. So what we noticed is that people really loved this part of the evening. That, of course, they got a lot from the speaker presenting, but where they really came alive and where there's a ton of energy in the room were these breakout discussion groups.
Mm-hmm.
And so we noticed that we're bringing together just incredible people in this community.
Mm-hmm.
And when we bring them together and just put them in a room, magic happens. We don't even need to do anything. We
Yeah.
just spark it, and just incredible ideas come out of it. So we decided that we wanted to capitalize on that and create events that were just about that format.
Mm-hmm.
So we're creating different types of formats to use that energy and that collaboration. So the first iteration that we had for these experiments that we're having for that collaboration, we're calling these interactives. So
Yeah.
the interactives, they are led by facilitators who are taking us into more experiential practices. So they're more heart-centered or more in your bodies. Sometimes we'll do movement practices. We'll do a lot of engaging with each other, a lot of dyad work.
Yeah.
And it's just getting us much more deep and practicing rather than just hearing ideas and not really integrating them as much into our daily practices.
And that's where it's at. You have the head stuff, and then you have the embodiment. It's like from head to like the wisdom, and then it's like your experience.
Exactly.
That's what's missing in a lot of, the talks and workshops out there. They're missing the embodiment. So I'm happy you're doing that.
And the integration is like, any kind of mind-blowing experience, whether you do like a psychedelic or you have some kind of spiritual experience, you can have this like state experience that really shakes you up and moves you out of your consciousness. But then what do you do with it? You go back to walking your daily life. How do you integrate it? How does it make you shift to the next stage of consciousness rather than just getting a glimpse of the state of consciousness?
Cool.
So it's shifting.
And I've heard something about conscious dating. Is that what? Tell us a little bit about this.
So conscious dating is my baby. So we started it out as a joke because I was just saying, well, I want to find a husband, and this is the great dating pool to find a husband. And it turns out I'm not the only person who was thinking that. We had a couple of attendees say that the only reason they come, and the most important reason they come to our events, is because it's a really great dating pool and they want to find somebody to marry. So we thought, well, why don't we help connect people? And it started as a joke, but then as I thought about it, I realized this really has a lot of potential. Because dating, I feel, has become just so rote and routine, and that we just swipe through all these photos and we make snap judgments on people without really reflecting on who this person is. And I feel like there's such a breakdown in our communication when we date. Like dating has just become, we feel like people are replaceable, and I feel like the communication among daters nowadays, at least in San Francisco, it's just lacking. So I wanted to make dating more of a practice, because this community is all about making anything into a practice, right? We have our meditation practices, we have our all kinds of practices, but dating is this area that's like, it's such a huge part of our lives, and yet we do it so unconsciously and without any kind of reflection or potential for growth. So I thought, let's make this a practice. How can we make dating something more conscious that allows us to reflect on ourselves and how we're showing up with other people, and how that changes based on the person we're with, and what is coming out of us. So we came up with these conscious dating nights where we have different interactions, and the interactions are taking us again out of the head and into the body and helping us relate to each other in a much more embodied way. So we'll do things like where we have to communicate with our partner without words, or use some kind of language other than your primary language, and hopefully one that your partner doesn't speak. And just finding ways to feel into how you're responding to people and how to give and receive feedback. That's another really big part of these nights, is that so often, like this breakdown of communication that I see in dating culture, is that we don't give each other feedback anymore. Like we'll just stop texting or stop calling the person instead of saying,
what happened?
Exactly, you leave the person
some closure,
hanging.
just close it.
Exactly, And
what did I do?
They're completely left hanging, and they don't grow from it. You don't know what you've done wrong or what just didn't sit right with the other person, so you never really have any opportunity for growth. So this is a way where we practice giving and receiving feedback and letting people know, what are the things that are coming up in our heads when we're with people, and what is maybe uncomfortable, it's learning how to comfortably say the uncomfortable things. The things that we usually try to avoid, giving them tools so that we can say them in a nice, effective way.
So essentially becoming better communicators.
That's a huge part of dating, right?
Okay, I love that you're doing that. I wish I had that when I'm married now, but when I was dating, there's nothing like that. I've heard of apps and websites, but real life thing, that's very much needed. So what are you very much excited for in 2017? Either in just your personal life or with consciousness hacking, what's exciting you right now?
Well, with consciousness hacking, there's so much opportunity for different, we have our monthly and weekly events, but we also have opportunities for these much larger events. We have ideas in the works for workshops, for retreats, things where we're really taking people into immersive environments and helping them really shift whatever's coming up for them. So especially working with business professionals, people in the tech fields and communities, shifting the way that they think about things and the way that they're living their lives. And let's see, what else am I excited about?
Anything personal that you're thinking that you're excited about for you? Maybe it'll happen after the conscious dating events.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe that's definitely one thing that hopefully will happen. I think for me personally, I'm excited to find more applications for technology in mental health, and really helping to bridge the gap that I see oftentimes between mental health and technology. There are a lot of therapists, and especially spiritual practitioners and therapists, who kind of see technology as something that's bringing more of a divide among people. And I see the potential I see the reason why they think that. And we have the tendency to feel addicted to technologies, and the way that technology right now is being created is to keep us more addicted to these products. Things like Facebook, where you feel yourself addicted and it's so hard to pull away. So I can understand why therapists and more spiritual people are seeing that as a disconnect from ourselves and from the natural world. But what I am really wanting to highlight is that yes, there's that potential, and right now I think marketers and people who are building these technologies are capitalizing on that addictive potential.
Absolutely.
However, I think that that's going to shift. We're going to see that there are much more evolved and helpful ways to use technology, and that eventually that will be the focus, that there will be a much more mature and beneficent application of these technologies, and that developers will focus more on that.
Yeah, and just the way that attention, because as a consumer, like my attention's going to go on something all the time anyways.
Right.
So what is that? And I feel like as our consciousness is evolving, what we're personally looking for, the marketer's consciousness is evolving as well. And there's a good fit there. So I believe in that too. Thank you for saying that. What's the best way to stay in touch with consciousness hacking, and how can people get involved? I also understand you guys have communities around the world.
Yeah, we
so
do.
Just tell us how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, we have about 24, I think, right now. They're constantly popping up, so it's hard to even keep track of them.
That's great.
There are about 24 right now all over the world, so chances are there's one near you. But otherwise, we have a newsletter. So if you just go to cohack.life, you can sign up to be on our newsletter, find out what we're doing. We send out emails once in a while. Let's see what else. That is all we do right now.
That's good. I think that's a good bit. So the best way people get involved is go to the website, cohack.com,
Yes.
find the community, and just stay in touch with you guys.
And really delve into the community. We're always looking for volunteers. We're always looking for people to be part of it. If you want to speak, if you have a topic, if you know somebody you think would be good to speak, and we're always looking for people to come and present at our speaker nights. If you have if you have a new event structure that you want to kick to us, we're always experimenting with new structures or just types of events and activities. If you have a product that you're working on, we do a lot of demos at our events. If you're just interested in consciousness and technology, just come talk to us.
Amazing. Valerie, thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll put all the information so people can get in touch with you guys. And thank you everyone for joining us on another episode of Global Purpose Speaks. I'm your host, DJ Taz Rashid, and this talk series is created in partnership with Global Purpose Movement, which is a collective of change makers convening and co-creating in our globe's current shift towards a world that works for everyone. And you can join the conversation at globalpurposemovement.com, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.